Today we're on a farm on the York Peninsula with James Preuss of Concierge Genetics. He's going to talk to us about genetic testing in Merino sheep.
Thanks for the introduction. So what we're doing here is doing genetic testing and adding it into our yearly routine docking of lambs. So we're showing you how simple it can be to collect samples. For this ewe, we're using a standard leader ear tagger, and we punch a hole and we put the ear tag in, and then what we do is we come over here and take that hole punch out, and we're just putting it into the 96 well DNA extraction plate. So this is going right to the bottom, and like you can see there, and it's as simple as that. So you may wonder why we're genetically testing these animals. Essentially the phenotype, or what they look like, the difference between the lambs, is made up of two components: the environment, and all these lambs are in the same environment, they're in the same paddock, they've got access to the same nutrition. So that's something we can't alter, but the genetics is something we can, so we can make selection. Why, you ask, might we do that? So for productivity gain. If we increase the genetic fitness of the flock, we increase the dollar return. So the dollars that come back into your back pocket. Some of the traits that you might be interested, especially in merinos like these, are yield, so how much they're cutting, their fleece weight, the style, so how good it looks, the comfort factor, and a few other traits. Some other farmers or producers might be interested in selling off their wether lambs as fattened lambs. So what we can test is how fast they're growing, and what we're selecting for is a nice lamb that has a big barrel body, they're broad, they have depth, not too leggy, and some of the other traits that are routinely tested are eye muscle depths and things like that, and we can relate this all back to the genetics of the animal. One other area that some producers may not have thought about is lambing percentage, and how we can use genetics to improve this. So what we're looking for is selecting those lambs that are twins, so their offspring are more likely to have twins, and essentially what we're doing there is increasing productivity by increasing the number of lambs that are birthed. Now, you might know what rams you've selected based on their phenotype and how good they look, and some other traits on their wool characteristics, but you might not necessarily know how well they're performing in your actual flock, so how well they combine with the ewes and what their offspring are like. So what we're doing is using genetics, we're putting real data around productivity and testing the genetics. Some of the areas that we can actually look at or test for are estimated breeding values, parentage, and we can look at even simple traits. So you might be interested in polled or horned and select for homozygous of those. You might also be interested in foot rot, removing those genetics from the flock, or you might even be interested, some merinos have what's called piebald spot, a little black spot that's essentially in the wool, and that's a defect. We know the genes that control this, and we can remove that from your flock. So what we at Concierge Genetics do is do genetic testing in plants and animals. So we're working across cattle, sheep, we're working across cereals and other plants. And today was really about how on-farm these genetics can be used. One of the other things that I should mention is in this producer's flock, they're not actually individualized ear tags. So what we're doing here is doing a random sample, maybe 10 to 20% of the flock, and we're testing all the range of phenotype that you can see. So we're not just taking the best, we're taking everything, so we can see the estimated genetic value of the flock. So other producers will have ear tags that are numbered, or maybe even have an RFID chip in them, so electronic ear tags. Those ones you can test throughout their entire life, and you can match up with their phenotypic data, so their weights as you weigh them down the race, what their fleece weights are over the years. One of the other things is the genetics of the animal stay the same through its life. So once we've done this single test, we put it in this plate. That's barcoded plate, and every individual is known from its birth to death, and we can manage the entire flock. So after you've actually filled up this plate with samples, you put it in a cool spot, maybe in the fridge, and then you just send it back to me in the lab and we'll do the testing for you. Until next time, thanks for your time, and